Shabbat Shalom. Good to be with you today. I hope you've had a great Thanksgiving and a good week. And I'm going to invite Joni to light the Shabbat candles for us. And if you have candles, bring them out.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Okay, let's all sing together how good it is, how sweet it is for us to be together. Page 10 or 128. Hine matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matomov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Let's turn now to page 24 or page 142, and let's welcome the Shabbat angels to bring us Shabbat, please. Shalom Aleichem Malachei Hasharet Malachei Eved Elyon Mi Melech Malchei Amelachim HaKamadosh Baruch Hu Boachem L'Shalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei Amelachim HaKamadosh Baruch Hu Baruch Hu L'Shalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei Hamelachim HaKamadosh Baruch Hu Tzeitchem L'Shalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei Amelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Welcome, you messengers of the Most High. Come in peace. Bless all of us this Shabbat day with peace. And at the end of Shabbat, let your sweet peace linger on for the rest of the week. And now let's come together as a congregation, blessing God together with the Baruch Hu. Please, everybody stand up. And when you get to your response, please sing along with me. Yai la la la, yai la 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 la, yai la la la, yai la 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 la, lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai la la la, yai la 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 la, yai la 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 la, yai la 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 la, yai la la la, yai la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamivorach Baruch Adonai Hamivorach Leolam Vamed Hamivorach Leolam Vamed. We read the English translation together. You can find this on 146 or 264. Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Praise be Adonai, to whom praise is due now and forever. And everybody can be seated. And let's turn to page 147 or 265 for this meditation on God's creation. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Umavir Yamon, Umevi Lamayla, Umavdil Ben Yom, Uvein Laila, Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Elachai V'Kayamam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu, Leolam Vahed, Baruch Atama Adonai Amariv Aravimim. 148 or 266, we thank God for God's love, the gift of Torah, with Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Tama, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, B'shachbeinu u'muvkumeinu, Masiyach b'chukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Torat Chama, Uv'mitzvotecha, Liyom v'olam v'maved, Ki heim chayenu, V'yorech yameinu, V'yorech yameinu, Uvahem nehge, Yomam v'layla, Yomam v'layla, V'yavatcha, Al tasir mimenu liyom olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Let's read this meditation on Torah in English. In each age, we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment, we are addressed by the world. In each age, we are challenged by our ancient teaching. At each moment, we stand face to face with truth. In each age, we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment, the knowing heart is filled with wonder. In each age, the children of Torah become its builders and seek to set the world firm on a foundation of truth. Page 149 or 267, we cover up our eyes and we focus on God's oneness and presence here with us as we sing together in Hebrew the first 6 words of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Together in English. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. The commandment to love God via Hafta, 150 or 268. V'ahavta maha et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha ma'avava hayom alevavecha Vishinantam levademecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha mademerech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'keshartam liyot al yadecha v'hayu litotafot b'hineinecha uchtavtam Al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkerumu vasitem ekol mitzvotai vehayitem kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem. In English, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus, you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. The Song of Freedom on 152 or 270, Mi Chamocha. Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la I love my la my mi chamocha bailim madam Mi kamomocha nedar bakomodesh no ratahilot ovosei fele malchutecha ra'uvanecha bokei ayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam azeh Elianu v'amerumu Adonai imloch leolam va'aved v'nemar kifada Adonai et Yaakov Yalo miyad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. Ay ya la 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 ya la ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la ya la 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 ya la 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 my life. Who is like you, O God, among the gods that are worshipped? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? Your children witness your sovereignty, the sea splitting before Moses and Miriam. This is our God, they cried. Adonai will reign forever and ever. And thus it is said, Adonai redeemed us, redeemed Jacob from the hand of Pharaoh, a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Prayer for peace. Page 153 or 271. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence, we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael. V'al Yerushalayim, v'al kol amo, v'al Yerushalayim, shalom. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael. Page 154 or 272. Top of the page. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time. It is a sign for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from work and was refreshed. Together in Hebrew. V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael Oti li'olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael. Oti li'olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz. Uvayom Hashavi Shabbat Vayinafash Lai lai yai lamai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai la la lai 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 yai lai 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 Lie, la, la, lie, 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 lie. The silent prayer, the tefillah, you stand up for this. You can include the words from 155 to 167 or 273 to 286. But please include the prayer of your own heart. And when you finish your prayer, please be seated. And actually, it's traditional also to face east. So if you know what direction that is, face that direction.
You don't want to go? Okay.
If you haven't finished your prayers, continue silently. And if you have finished your prayer, join with me. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 my. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 my. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 my. Well, a few words of Torah. The reading for this week would be Vayetze. And among other things in this Torah reading, we have the love story of Jacob and Rachel. But it's a dark love story and not entirely satisfying. So Jacob was running away from his brother Esau, who was threatening to kill him, and he comes to the land of Haran, where his ancestry is from, and there's a Lavan there, who's his uncle, and his cousins, Rachel and Leah, or Rachel and Leah. And when he sees Rachel, immediately he thinks, I'm in love with her. It's love at first sight. And in fact, the Torah says that she's extremely good looking. Her sister Leah, who's a little bit older, she, according to Torah, has weak eyes. And they don't say much else about Leah, although the word Leah is related to, in Hebrew, to a word for weak and also a word for cow. So you get the sense Leah may not have been as good looking as Rachel. And also they say she had weak eyes. We don't know exactly what that means, but she wasn't that attractive. Well, Jacob was absolutely smitten. Rachel was the girl of his dreams, and he decides to marry her. So there is a way. He wants his daughter, Leah, to be married first before Rachel. So under the veil, it's Leah. And when Jacob wakes up, the Torah says, behold, it's Leah. Now, Jacob was told by Lavan, you got to work for me 7 years in order to get this bride, in order to get Rachel. And Jacob did work those 7 years as a shepherd, although the Torah says those 7 years, they flew by. They were like a couple of days. But Jacob ends up, despite all that, with Leah. He's angry. Lavan says, it's our custom to marry the older daughter before the younger daughter. But you can marry Rachel also after your week, your wedding week is over. You can marry Rachel, but you have to work another 7 years for me. So Jacob, overcome with love, marries the girl of her dreams. But when the wedding is over, he soon discovers it's not the girl of his dreams. It's a girl that he never loved. In fact, the Torah says she's the unloved one. And I think this sometimes happens when people get married, or sometimes when they enter into a friendship, or they have a new job, or move to a new city, or go to a new school. They're sometimes overcome with enthusiasm and joy, and especially if you get married. But when you actually are there and time goes on, you realize it's not all wine and roses. It's not all wonderful. You thought you married Rachel, and then after a little while, you ended up with Leah. So it seems that the theme here is got to be very careful before you enter into a relationship, and recognize that you could be blinded by love. In fact, even if Leah didn't have a veil on, Jacob may have been so much in love, he couldn't even see her. He was blinded by his love. But if we're going to enter into a relationship, or enter into any major change in our life that we're excited about, we need to also consult our intelligence and look at things clearly and think about it. But there's more to the story than that, I think. In Jewish mysticism, they teach, and a lot of us have heard this, that when you get married, ideally you should marry your beshert, the one who is destined for you, the soulmate. And we often think that the soulmate is going to be somebody who is so much in tune with us, so much like us, that it's going to be blissful and wonderful and happy. Well, according to Jewish mysticism, that's not always the way it works. You may marry the one that you need to marry, that's important, that your soul desires, but that person may not always be somebody that it's all bliss. There may be some thorns and thistles as well. Maybe that person who you marry is a person you need to learn something from, the person who has something to teach you. And because you don't know those things, it's not always easy. It may be uncomfortable. Maybe you thought you needed a Rachel, but what your soul needs, even though it's uncomfortable, your soul needs a Leah. Your soul needs a Leah who can teach you what you need to learn. And in fact, the Torah says about Rachel, it's a weird story. Rachel, when Leah and Rachel and the whole family and Jacob, the whole mishpacha is leaving Lavan, the father of Rachel and Leah. When they leave, Rachel, terrible thing, she steals some idols. Now the rabbi says she stole them so Lavan wouldn't worship them. It doesn't sound like that. It sounds like she wanted them to worship her, to give her good luck. Well, Lavan finds out that those idols are gone, so he runs. He wants to get those idols back, and he accuses Jacob. Jacob says, nobody here has stolen your idols. If somebody did it, they might as well die. Unknowingly, he put a curse on Rachel because Rachel had those idols. But what she did, there's a box that you put on top of the camel. It's like a big saddle. And she put the idols under that box and she sat on it. And Lavan looked at her and she said, you can look anywhere, but I can't get up because, this is the time of my period. Well, number one, she's not going to get up because she's not feeling so well. She's lying, so number one, she's not going to get up. But number two, men in those days, even more than now, they were terrified of women who had their periods. They thought they were impure or whatever. So Lavan is not going to go there. So Rachel hides the idols. There are 4 things that Rachel does wrong. She has the idols, which is worship of a foreign god. She steals them. She disrespects her father, and she lies to her father. All that is terrible. And beyond that, Jacob, without knowing it, cursed her. He said, if somebody's stolen these, I know they haven't done it. They might as well die if they've stolen it. And in fact, later on, Rachel does die in childbirth and in great suffering. So Rachel, the beautiful one that Jacob thought he was marrying first, Jacob had his wife Rachel had some character flaws. Leah, on the other hand, even though she was unloved, the Torah says that she was desperate, not for children. She ended up having a half a dozen children. She was kind of a fertile myrtle, and Rachel had a terrible time having children. She ended up having 2 late in life, and the second one, she died in childbirth. But Leah had 6, and with the first 3, each of them had names that suggested, oh, I wish my husband would love me. But the 4th one, she uses the Hebrew, which means I give thanks to God. And the name was a variation on that phrase. In fact, in the Talmud, they say, in all of human history, there was nobody who gave thanks to God more passionately, any better than Leah did. So actually, it's kind of appropriate for a Thanksgiving weekend. Leah is a model of giving thanksgiving. And she named her child Yehudah, which means I give thanks. And Yehudah is actually, Leah's son is actually the father of all the Jewish people. And except for the Levites, and Leah's 3rd son was Levi. So she is the mother of all the Jewish people, and not Rachel, even though she was the unloved one, even though she was the one who didn't seem that beautiful, but she was the one who could give thanks to God. Regardless of what happened, she was able to give thanks to God. So she had character. Now, it would be nice if Jacob learned to elevate his soul, to elevate his ethics by the character of Leah, to learn how to do that. I'm not sure he ever did. Close to the end of his life, he was asked, he came to Egypt, and Pharaoh said to him, how old are you? And Jacob said, I'm 130, and the years of my life have been very few and very bitter. Jacob never learned to be happy, as far as we can tell from the Torah. And my thought is that if he had learned to love Leah, if he had learned the one that he really didn't think very much of, if he could see her soul, if he could see her character, if he could see that she had stuff to teach him, he would have been happy. So I take from this Torah reading 2 morals, at least 2. There are many, and the Torah a lot of times it doesn't say directly what you're supposed to take from it. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it's very indirect. And I think one thing it says is be careful. If you think you're marrying a Rachel, you might be marrying a Leah. So be careful when you enter into a marriage or any important endeavor or relationship, not to be blinded by love. But also, don't be blinded by hate. Don't be blinded by mistrust. The person that you think may not be the right one for you may be the person who has the most to teach you. Shabbat Shalom. And again, as always, feel free to write me or communicate with me. Let me know what you think. Ask questions or criticisms. I'm always grateful to hear what you have to think. Well, let's prepare now to pray for health and healing with the Misha Berach prayer. You're going to find this on page 253. 253, or in the big book 371. I especially want to remember our friends in the congregation, Danny and Judy, and I want to remember Francis, and I also want to remember Mackenzie. And my clients, I want to remember all of them, but especially Beverly and Sylvia, my friends Lisa and Steve, and my teachers, Rabbi Steve and Rabbi Lucy, and everybody else in the congregation and elsewhere that needs health and healing, and everybody that's in your heart as we pray together and sing together, Misha Berach. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBeracha Legim Avotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBeracha La'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Let's all stand up for the Aleinu. We're going to find that on page 282 or 586. Please stand up and sing with me. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, lateit gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, v'goraleinu ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. We've just praised the sovereign of the universe in Hebrew, and we've proclaimed the greatness of the Creator, who set the Jewish people apart from all other families on earth, giving us a destiny that's unique among all nations. For that reason, we bent our knees and bowed down, acknowledging the supreme sovereign, the Holy One of blessing. We hope all people will come together as one, worshiping God in their own way. And we express this hope on page 287 or 591, middle of the page, V'ne'emar. V'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yiyeh Adonai yemechad, u'shema, echad. Let's prepare for the Mourner's Kaddish. You're going to find this on page 294. We want to remember the following people who have yahrzeits: Dr. Arthur Brown, David Lee Zapersky, Toby Tobeson, Frida Halpert, Bruce Kirsch, Eric Marks, and again, I want to remember my father-in-law, Martin Shore. As a community of mourners, we recite together the Mourners Kaddish, 294, 598. Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, v'Olama Divra Chirutei, v'Yamlich Malchutei, v'Chaye Chon of Yomechon, u'v'Chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'Gala u'Vizman Kariv, v'Yimru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach le'olam ul'olamei olamaya, Yitbarach, v'Yishtabach, v'Yitpa'ar, v'Yitromam v'Yitnaseh, v'Yitadar v'Yitalev v'Yitalal, Shemei Dekudsha B'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran b'olama v'yimru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Ose Shalom Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, bring peace to all Israel, bring peace to all people, and let us say Amen. I'd like to turn now to a meditation on Thanksgiving. You'll find this on page 239 or on page 357. For the gift of our souls, for the promise of our lives, for all we are and all we might yet become, for the creative seed sown within our minds, whose nurturing can yield a grand harvest. For all these gifts, we thank you, O God, and pray that we prove ourselves worthy. May our lives be ripe with the fruit of compassion, sweetly sustaining those in need. May we use our gifts wisely and with love, true messengers of blessing in the world. Let's take our wine in hand, and you're going to find this on page 5 if you have your books. And together, let's celebrate Shabbat by drinking wine and by singing Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron b'maaseh v'vred meshid ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziyat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidam amashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. I have some challah for Shabbat that Joni has cooked and baked, and so I'm going to wash my hands. If you have challah, I hope you'll wash your hands as well. Say the blessing in English is, we thank you, dear God, for giving us the holy mitzvah of washing our hands. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Bim, bum, bim, 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 bum, bim, 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 bum, bim, bum, bim, 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 bum, bim, 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 bum. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Bim, bum, bim, 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 bum. Bim, 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 bum, bum. Final blessing. Please, if you are blessing, put your hands on the shoulder or the head of the people you're blessing or the person you're blessing, or send the blessing out. And if you're receiving the blessing, listen carefully and take the blessing in. And repeat after me. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and watch over you. Ya'er Adonai Panav Elecha V'yechuneka. May God's face light up towards you, and may God be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai Panav Elecha V'yasem Lecha Shalom. May God's face be lifted up towards you, and may God grant you peace. Ken Yehi Ratzon. So may it be God's will. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Have a safe week, have a sweet week, and have a good Shabbat. God willing, we'll see you again next week. Take care.